arms towards the sun. You feel the warmth of the rays, and then you know you're alive and you don't have to be afraid.
Welcome to the Bassline. Ronald F. Owens Jr. and Julie Threet are road warriors for medical freedom. They go county by county by county, notifying Board of Supervisors in the state of California about the harm that has been done and continues to be inflicted by the toxic injections that some people choose to call COVID vaccines. It is with great delight that I welcome back to the Bassline Ronald F. Owens Jr. and Julie Threet. Welcome, Ronald and Julie. How are you guys this morning?
Doing fine, Jeremiah.
Doing
Doing
well.
fine. How you doing, Julie?
Doing great. Another day after a Board of Supervisor meeting on a Tuesday. Takes all day to recover. I don't know
It
about you.
does.
It takes all day to recover from these Tuesday meetings.
Jeremiah
Wow.
and your listeners, Wednesday is like our day of rest.
Correct. It's like Sunday.
Well-deserved day of rest. Well, let me put this interview in context a little bit. I have to do a pre-recorded show this week because I have to teach a little bit earlier this Friday as the school year winds down. And I was thinking, who would I want to bring on for a pre-recorded show? And I figured, you know what? Let me bring on people that I know, Ronald and Julie, and we've spoken individually, of course. I've interviewed Ronald individually and Julie individually, but I figured I should have them on together because they are, as I call them, a dynamic duo of medical freedom. They go to these events together. So I thought it would be appropriate to have them both here. And today is going to be a little bit more of an informal conversation, a sort of see where the conversation takes us kind of discussion. But when I first interviewed you both individually, I was sort of getting to know you both, and I had an idea of what you guys were doing. But now in the trenches with you guys, I see how dedicated you've both been and how organized you guys are in your efforts. And actually, one of my big influences, the author, the philosopher G.I. Gurdjieff. He wrote several books that I think are just incredible books. For example, he wrote Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson, and he wrote a book called Meetings with Remarkable Men. But he always said, an ordinary effort doesn't count. Only a superhuman effort counts. And I feel that Ronald and Julie are putting forth a superhuman effort on behalf of the medical freedom movement. And one thing that every medical freedom activist could do to do a good deed is simply to augment and amplify their voices as well as possible to spread the word about these appearances that Ronald and Julie have been making, again, so diligently, county by county by county, and doing a great job, I must say, as spokespeople, eloquent, professional, well prepared. And if you guys, and I said this just yesterday, and I've said it several times by now, if you guys were doing a fraction of what you were doing, I think it would be commendable. But the amount of effort and consistency that you've shown is really superhuman. So to start the discussion, I guess let's ask Julie, and then you can add to it, Ronald, is give us an update in terms of your recent activities. You guys have been really on a roll. Fill us in about some of these recent appearances that you guys have been making and what's the latest before we go into what's next.
Well,
Yeah,
24 hours ago, Julie, where were we?
we were up in Sierra County in a little town of Downeyville, California.
Wow.
So yeah, and it is it's interesting. And just for the audience, just I met Ron back in October of 2024 when he came to Butte County to give his, hey, listen, I found out this information from Javier Becerra's speech that he was doing going county to county. And at that point, I had been literally at every Butte County supervisor meeting for 2 years, and it was exhausting. And they weren't hearing me as a vaccine injured person who had witnessed things at their vaccine clinics here in Chico, and pulled information off of them from a FOIA, and they ran for supervisor and all this. I was exhausted with Butte County. I did not want to walk into Oroville one more day. And so when I heard him stand up, and that just again, I was like, I looked up at those 5 supervisors and I went, this man sent you a 5-page PDF in July I'm done with y'all. So I said, you know what, Ron, and here I am. I'm a widow. I live by myself with a couple dogs. Why not? Let me get in the car. Let me start traveling around the state. I've lived here for 55 years. I've traveled a lot of this state, but I love to go on road trips. So let's do this. And so we kind of started just really that organically, like it wasn't planned. And it
Hmm.
was like, okay, where are you going, Ron? What on this next Tuesday? Let me hop along. And then it just rolled on and now it's been shoot, I mean, well, I've done 25 counties, so 24 counties with Ron, so that's a lot of weeks. That's a lot of months. Um, we've gotten into this really good groove. It's very organized chaos because we don't know where we're going to go from Tuesday to Tuesday. Every Tuesday in California, there's some county board of supervisor meeting, and there's, 58 counties. And so to keep track of where have not we gone, especially Ron, who's up at his 36 counties, he's trying to get to 58 to try to figure out, and I'm up in Northern California in Butte County and Chico. He's in Sacramento, so we've got a lot of state to cover. But yeah, so it's been a pleasure, and I tell you to have somebody who and he can read me. He knows when I'm not feeling well. Like yesterday. Yesterday I was not feeling well at all. I didn't sleep well at all that night. To get up early in the morning, drive 2 hours through the mountains to this little teeny tiny rural community, and then walk, you don't know what you're walking into usually. So now you walk into this little courthouse and you're looking at these people and they're looking at you like, who are you guys? I mean, seriously, we walk in there like, who are you people? It's a big black man and this woman. Um, and you're like, let me speak to you about a concern we have, and we really think this is important for your community. Anyway, but we're on a groove and and things fall into place. And sometimes it's hard to explain. We were supposed to be in Plumas County yesterday. That fell apart, but within a day, where do we go? Sierra County, that works. Downeyville, let's do it. I don't have to stay the night. So it just kind of works. But yeah, so I appreciate you having us on your show, Jeremiah, to again help people understand I mean, there's so many things that they need to understand. But yeah, you can do it too. Hello.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I wanted to have you guys on, is to basically explain the great example that you've created, the great model, the template that you guys have made that other people can follow in terms of finding similar meetings and speaking out and putting it on the public record that these shots are injuring people. And there's so many sources of evidence indicating that. It's pretty hard to understand why progress is happening so slowly, right? I mean, how many people need to die? I was corrected in the space the other day by our friend and my previous guest, Dr. Philip Triantos, when I said we have over 3,000 peer-reviewed papers indicating the harm of these shots. And he corrected me and said, no, we're over 4,000 now. So there you have it. We have over 4,000 peer-reviewed papers saying these shots are harmful. And my question for people is, would there be 4,000 peer-reviewed papers indicating the harm of a not harmful product? I mean, you think there's nothing there? This pile of academic research reporting back to the scientific world, to the world at large, these shots are injuring people. They're injuring people's eyes. They're injuring people's hearts. They're injuring people's kidneys. They're making autoimmune disorders. They're causing a died suddenly phenomenon in our society. I mean, wow. I mean, talk about turning a blind eye. What do you think it's going to take, Ronald, and then Julie? You guys, if you could both comment on this, if you will. But Ronald, what do you think it's going to take to wake people up? I mean, we're trying. We're consistent in our efforts. I'm consistent in my own right. You guys are incredibly consistent. There are other consistent voices of medical freedom out here. Why are people having such a hard time waking up? What's it going to take? Any
I
ideas?
I think it's combination, Jeremiah, and probably Judy might want to chime in. Is we've been indoctrinated so much throughout the years that vaccines are safe and effective. And so that's a major calculus where big pharma controls the politicians, controls mainstream media, controls social media, They have a control of the medical profession, the medical schools, the curriculum, the funding, and so that is a very entrenched infrastructure that has been established throughout the decades. Okay, so you've got that major calculus, and then you've got another calculus where people, okay, well, I felt weird since I've taken the COVID. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to hear it. So maybe there's a cognitive dissonance component or dynamic at work where people don't want to hear it. People don't want to deal with it. They may know somebody, um, and they just don't want to hear it. And then there's another where it affects people's self-interest. Careers are made by big pharma and vaccines and our current public health and medical system. People are awarded. Um, you make a lot of money. A lot of money is being made by these vaccines. So there's just a combination of dynamics at work, and I think that unless a particular vaccine affects you or yours, and I'm not talking about you, Jeremiah,
Yeah.
or Julie, but unless it affects a board of supervisors, family member, or a friend, I don't think it'll connect. And there's another also there's a funding thing too, where a lot of these counties probably got funding for pushing this narrative. What do you think, Julie?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, Butte County took $3.14 million in immunization assistance plan in 2021. And there's a whole 3-year program that they've laid out on how they're going to spend that money to educate Butte County about these COVID vaccines. So they've been, I do believe in there's something that says you're gonna have to pay it back. Well, when you're a county that's living, basically month to month, especially here in California, we don't have, the opportunity to go, well, okay, we're going to give the money back. So there is definitely this money component there. But I'm like, I don't care. Pay the money back. Stop. Don't, what are you talking? Let them sue you. I keep telling that. Bring on Newsom. Let him sue Butte County. Bring it on, right? But, the peer-reviewed studies you mentioned, where's the peer-reviewed study saying it's safe and effective, right? Where is that? I don't see thousands of peer-reviewed studies proving it's safe and effective. No, we were taught and trained, again, as Ron said, to believe our government, to believe our
Mm-hmm.
three-letter agencies. And remember when COVID started in 2020, follow the science, believe Fauci, believe every single thing the CDC says. And I don't know how many times I walked into a Butte County meeting, supervisor meeting, and they're like, well, it's got to come from, the CDC. We follow CDC guidelines. I'm like, oh my gosh, well, let's stop following the CDC guidelines. Who is the CDC? And then you start to unravel all the corruption of the HHS, the FDA, the CDC. And so there's definitely that one piece, which is extreme. So what is it going to take? It takes Kennedy to tell us these are not safe and effective, pull them down, for a county government to, I think, feel like their federal government has given them permission, and then it rolls down the hill, right? So you've got the government needs to finally acknowledge these are not working, and that's a whole chaotic mess right now on that side. But the second piece here, and again in Butte County, me having worked at the hospital, Enloe Medical Center here in Chico, patient-centered care hospital, award-winning. It employs the most people in this particular city. People are born there, they've died there. They trust that place implicitly. So when you've got your medical establishment, your own personal doctor, your own personal employer, everybody in a medical, in a lab coat here in Chico, again, the lab you go to, your specialists telling you these are safe and effective. Who are you, the little person without the MD next to your name, to
Mm-hmm.
question that? So
Mm-hmm.
that's the second thing, man. That's what I hit on head on. I keep begging for some brave doctor here in Chico, and I got one pediatrician who almost cracked, but he won't go on record, and my neurologist or the coroner here locally. You guys get to the county meeting and stand up with me. I need one of you people. And again, I almost got my neurologist to do it. I almost got the local the the funeral home director who retired. I'm like, you're retiring. Come with me to tell me you're seeing these clots coming out of bodies. And but it's got to take somebody locally that people respect in the medical establishment to also stand up. So,
Yeah, I was just speaking with a friend earlier, and it's unfortunately quite true that I know a few people who, of course, I wouldn't mention by name, but I know a few people who have come back around, people who criticize me for speaking out against the injections, who have quietly and with some degree of shame have admitted to me that they're injured now and that I was right. And these are people who, they've taken a stand in just simply admitting that to me, but they will not
Mm,
A, speak out for themselves or endorse what I'm doing publicly in public. I don't, I guess I can only think of exactly what's going on in their minds. And of course, everyone is different, but I think there's just this image that they've seen the treatment that the so-called anti-vaxxers receive, and they don't want any part of it. They already
mhm,
have a new health challenge, which is front and center in their lives now. And they're saying, I don't want to take on a social challenge now of also suddenly being some sort of activist who's available to be attacked for stating, my personal truth, which is another horrible thing that we've witnessed is, I mean, I'll describe it as peak censorship, right? We've witnessed and experienced all kinds of censorship throughout all of this. And peak censorship was when the vaccine injured were being labeled as misinformation in providing firsthand accounts of their own vaccine injury experience. That you could go to the internet, do a live video and say, I took this injection, this is what happens to me, and then you get your account suspended or a label saying misinformation or however they chose to do it arbitrarily and depending on the platform. But um, peak
yeah,
censorship,
Jeremiah,
telling people,
I've got a checklist of people who are responsible for my mom's vaccine murder. Okay, my mom who lived in Silicon Valley in the belly of the beast, and Santa Clara County Public Health was relentless with all their masking and their policies. And she believed everything within, within that community. Mark Zuckerberg, and again, my mom was like a historian within the Silicon Valley engineering community. My parents moved there in the 60s and really were part of the development of the software industry, et cetera, and worked within high tech. For my mom worked her entire career supporting a lot of high tech companies. But when Mark Zuckerberg allowed the government to order him, supposedly, to remove any vaccine injury story, doctors' accounts, whatever, from Facebook and scrub it. That was my mom's only social media outlet because she followed her grandkids, right? So she only used Facebook to follow her grandkids and maybe her friends and in the community, the older people. Other than that, she never really watched any TV or any other alternative media. But that was her only source. So when I started talking to her about my vaccine injury, for her to get something else, other than, okay, maybe it's just the way, your own personal body makeup or whatever, um, for her not to see one single story on Facebook because it'd been scrubbed. Oh, Mark Zuckerberg's on that list of people that I hold responsible for her murder because she trusted Facebook, right? They're Silicon Valley, they're icons. My God, Apple can come on. So yeah, that was
and
another
then
tragedy.
yeah, and then we have the statement that the video of Mark Zuckerberg himself just questioning in the most logical terms mRNA and him saying on video that it just seems like a dangerous idea to a large extent. So now you're censoring the people who are questioning this in the same way that you did instinctively, but are just taking it a step further and saying, no, I will not let you violate my rights.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and
let's
then,
talk. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you guys, where do you like, what are your thoughts about the vague censorship that persists on X? Like my previous guest, Dr. Joe Lee, just had his account just yanked. He had tens of thousands of followers, and now he's just not on X. They just shut him down. He was warning people about the dangers of vaccines in all of his posts, and now they just pulled the plug on him. And this is in the Elon Musk era. We have even someone who I don't consider to be one of the more inflammatory voices in the movement at all, Dr. Meryl Nass. She had her account shut down arbitrarily without any recourse. What do you think is going on with this vague, lingering censorship that's not as bad as before, but it's still censorship and it's not free speech?
Well, I was going to say, so Ron wrote the book Muzzled Truth for a reason. He was muzzled. And I
You're
think,
right.
Ron, what was your experience with the Publishers Association and trying to wake them up? You're the in the heat of being muzzled as a, professional, um, publisher.
Yeah, Ron, what do you say, the muzzled one? Don't forget to unmute if you're muted.
Well, here I'll cover the Twitter X piece. Okay, so um somehow we are shadow banned. Somehow there's something in the algorithm still, and I don't know why um, Elon Musk is not holding up his end of the bargain, right? And I don't know how they are picking and choosing which one of us is going to be canceled, which one of us is going to be muzzled, which one of us is not going to have our reach on our Twitter posts. There's sometimes when I come home from these board of supervisor meetings, Jeremiah, and I immediately post, here's our video, and I'll pin it to the top of my page. There's days that I get immediately 2,000 followers and 2,000 likes or whatever. And then there's times I get 17. Now, why, it's like, I don't know why that is. There's something within that algorithm. So, and I think we lost Ron. I think he had to drop off.
Ronald F. Owens Jr., paging Ronald F. Owens Jr.
I tell you, let me just say, again, when we go traveling on Tuesdays, let me just describe what we have to do and going out into a county on a Tuesday. So yesterday, Downeyville, California, go look it up on a map. Downeyville, California, in the eastern Sierra Nevadas. Ron's driving up from Sacramento. I'm driving in from Chico. We're on these windy roads. We've got to get there by 9. If you're not there by 9, they will do public comment, they'll close it, and you've lost your opportunity. So you have to make sure you've left early. Do you have do you have it all gassed up? Have you accounted for the weather? Have you accounted for any road work? So I had to leave, and oh my gosh, yesterday I woke up, I was supposed to wake up at 5. All of a sudden, none of my alarms worked. I look at the clock, it's 10 minutes to 6. I should have been out of there by 6:15. I need to get gas. I'm panicking. Jeremiah, I literally almost went back to bed. I went, screw this, screw Sierra County. They can keep poisoning their people. I'm done. But no, I just hear my mom in my head, get your ass out of bed now. You can do this, right? And you got to be presentable. You can't go in there looking like a disheveled mess, right? With the ball cap on. So you get up, I'm like, within 15 minutes, I've got enough makeup on. I've got my, a presentable outfit on. Get in the car, get the gas, calm yourself down because now you've got to drive. So just breathe and drive and you don't know, I've never been there. And I'm like, and now I'm trusting Google, right? My GPS, take a left here, take a right. I'm like, my God, I feel like I'm in no man's land. Keep driving, just keep going. Trust the process. And again, windy roads, and now there's a truck on my butt. Really, you got to be on my ass right now, dude. I pull over, you get around me, little narrow roads. And I literally pull into this little teeny tiny town of Downeyville. And I get there, and there's the sheriff's office and the courthouse, and it's like 1800s. Like time has stood still in this town. And I look over, and there's Ron. And he's gotten there almost at the same time I did from a whole different route in Sacramento, and now it's 8:30. We literally have a half hour. And I'm like, oh, okay, relax. You got a half hour. And we walk in. He goes to the sheriff's office to start to talk to the sheriff. Like, can I have your card, sir? And I walk into the building, and I walk into this building with looking at 1850s. They have people going in there to get information on the title of their property in books from the 1850s. It's that historic and that small. And so, boom, it hits 9 o'clock. And now Ron's going to videotape because in this small county, they do not videotape their meetings. They only do audio. But we want to see us on film. So he's setting up his camera. You're looking at the people going, what is this big black man in here videotaping our meeting. And so, and then but you hit Pledge of Allegiance, boom, we need public comment. I raise my hand, Julie, go. And we have that process. Julie's going to go first, always. He wants me to go first, always. And then he goes next. And then usually I just go, thank you for your time. And we leave. It's a little bit awkward because you feel like you should stay the whole meeting. But anyway, so we leave and we go outside and we're like, gosh, okay, we're exhausted. All of that for 3 minutes, literally 3 minutes of time. So it's a process, and then you got to get home and you got to decompress. You've got to load up the meeting. Where are you going to put it? And so then, yeah, Wednesday for us is we decompress. We don't want to do anything on a Wednesday. So here we are.
Right. Well, as a matter of fact, okay, so we had some connection issues there, but Ronald's back on the line with us, and you wrote a book, Muzzled Truth, which I want to direct my listeners towards right now. Muzzledtruth.com is where they can find your book. And I wanted your take, Ronald, about the muzzling of the truth that we've experienced in so many forms throughout this whole experience, and unfortunately continue to experience. For example, I was mentioning how on X, we have accounts such as Dr. Joe Lee, a recent guest on my program, Dr. Merrill Nass, who I've also interviewed twice. They've just had their accounts arbitrarily taken down, and this is in the new free speech era.
Mhm.
So, what are some of your thoughts about the censorship that we've experienced in general, and this sort of lingering censorship that we're still dealing with? What are some of your thoughts about the
Well,
censorship around this conversation?
I talked to a man who lives 2, 3 houses from me. He teaches criminal law at a community college here in the Sacramento region. And I shared with him about what happened to me at the California Department of Public Health, where in essence, they muzzled me. And, I'm thinking, they muzzled me, but I'm not going to muzzle myself. And my conversations with this guy said, Ron, they, in essence, by censoring you, they took away your constitutional rights of free speech. And he suggested that I sue them. I thought about it for a couple of days and thinking the optics of me suing Julie, suing all 40 million other Californians at the same time, telling the Californians that these vaccines are killing folks, it just didn't set right with me. So the point I'm trying to make is that we can be censored, but we don't have to participate or partner in the censoring. I could have just gone along with the program at work, still be there by the way, be quiet for a whole year, but I just could not participate with them censoring me. With Julie and I going out from county to county, we are practicing um, not being censored. We're basically sharing our stories, and we just have to be not allow the institutions, be they mainstream media, be they social media or my former employer, or even the attitudes of others. Diana Dries in Butte County, Julie Threet in Butte County, they just keep going there because there's an attitudinal censoring. The censoring comes in various forms, but we can't help what they do to try to in censoring us. We just can't participate or partner in our own censoring.
Well, I think, Ron, another part about your past that I don't think a lot of people know is you worked for the California Publishers Association, right? So
Right.
one of the other, so tell people about what you wrote to the California because here, the Publishers Association, which has all the papers in California, and what did you write to them?
Well, basically, what I shared with them my story, and I wrote. I worked at it's called the California News Publishers Association now, but it was formerly the California Newspapers Publishers Association. So I worked at CNPA between 1987 and 1992. That's how I learned how to put together newspapers. I mean, I learned putting together a newspaper from beginning until the end, going to the press and making sure everything is good to go. Okay, so having that experience, what, my God, 30 years ago, gave me a unique pedigree of saying, look, Fred Champion III, I used to work at CMPA. You were probably like a kid back then, okay?
Mm.
Because I do remember vaguely his father. His father was a publisher, I believe it was. And I basically made the point that the mainstream media here in California, the newspapers, print, had participated in censoring. And even I called them out on it. In essence, not only did I do that with CMPA, the California News Publishers Association, but also the California Broadcasters Association. And both of those documents are on my muzzletruth.com website for people to go and read. It was like an open letter challenging them to start covering the COVID-19 vaccine harm that's caused to the readership. I didn't think that they would respond positively and do something, because I said, Julie Threet and we can come out and speak at a CMPA convention or a CMPA board meeting or whatever they're called now, or even CBA, California Broadcasters Association, but they have been noticed. And I've extended the noticing not only here in California, but I've also sent similar information to the executive director of the Washington Newspaper Publishers Association, I think it's called. I think also the Idaho Press Association. I should probably include AMPA, the American Newspaper Publishers Association. And I make note of that because John F. Kennedy's famous speech, where he's talking about secret societies and so forth and so on, he delivered that famous speech, I believe, in 1963, several months before he was murdered, before AMPA, the American Newspaper Publishers Association, at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York. So yeah, back to censoring. I've had that experience working at CMPA, and I came with that experience, and then having worked at public health for almost 15 years, it's like God has really mapped out my career where I could cover a lot of 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 territory with my work, what do you call it, work experience. But yeah, the institutions will censor us, but it's left up to us not to be censored.
Yeah, it's funny. Yesterday, when we got into this little courthouse in Downeyville, California, right in front of us was and Ron and I are always looking at the layout of these meetings, like how are they sitting, where are they sitting, where are we positioned? Well, right in front of us, this was the first time there was a press table. I mean, it was this old antique table, and it had press on it. Well, this young man, I don't know, he was in his 20s, it looked like, walks up and puts his stuff on the table, and Ron immediately, and Ron, this is what I love about Ron, because he's such an extrovert and I'm such an introvert. He's like, "Are you with the press?" The young man goes, "Yes, I am." And he goes, "Can I get your card? Can I give you my card? Who are you with?" And he's with, I don't know, mountaineering, some like
The
super
mountain messenger, yeah,
mountain
yeah,
messenger, right?
yeah.
And so I thought, wow. And so Ron's including that man's information on his follow-up email that's going to the supervisors, that's going to reinforce what we're going to just talk about and maybe make an impact on that young man to write a story about us, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And Ron's like, "Julie, do you want this email?" And I go, "No, you deal with the press. You're the guy who deals with the press. I don't want anything to do
Mm-hmm.
with the press."
Matter of fact, what I tend to do is resend that Rumble link that I recorded. The
Mm,
reason why I video record these Rumble links is not because like we're vain. It's to provide videographic receipts for those counties like Sierra and a couple of other counties that aren't coming to mind that don't video record but audio record. There's
yeah,
just
Calusa.
something about us being there. We're providing receipts for a lawyer in the not too distant future to pick up, you know. But yeah, one thing that I've learned from Julie, I'm beginning to start copying the sheriffs. She's been keeping the sheriffs in the loop all along. I mean, I remember us talking to the sheriff at Yuba County. We talked to the sheriff at Merced County. I talked to the sheriff at San Benito, the woman sheriff in Mono County,
Tehama, we saw the sheriff in Tehama. We shook his
Tehama
hand.
County. Yeah, yeah. So we need to keep the sheriffs in the loop, because not only do they wear the law enforcement hat, sheriff, but they're also the coroner. And with your Julie's being the versaware.com lead investigator, she knows all the data and the stats, and she can connect with the coroner's office of some of these sheriffs. And that's something that we probably will be doing after our Stop the Shops campaign. I don't know what's going to happen after that. You know, I didn't know this time last year that I would be doing what I didn't even know Julie Threet existed this time last year, because the first person who reached out to me was Diana Dreiss, and we emailed back and forth, and that's how I met Julie, was through that connection.
Right. Well, I think it's great that you mentioned the sheriffs and that you're notifying them, because a point that I've made, and I'd like to hear your follow up on what I'm about to say, which is I've described what we've experienced and continue to experience as a total breakdown of every security mechanism that's supposed to exist in our society. I mean, it's an oversimplification to say, oh, it's the corrupt pharmaceutical industry. Well, what about the fact that they recruited politicians to promote this in every jurisdiction, that they had total control over the media system to push this relentlessly and not question it at all? What about, and this is where it gets really too much for me to think about almost, is the military, and the fact that you have all these various branches of the military. And then I don't know the military hierarchy very well, but you don't have an admiral or a general or a strategist or somewhere at some level saying, hey, wait a second, maybe it's not a good idea to give an experimental product to every soldier in every division of the military, because obviously if something's even slightly wrong with that product, you poisoned your entire defense force. But you know, this total breakdown, I mean, how do we even take account
You
of the
know,
fact that there wasn't a judge, there wasn't a sheriff, there wasn't a general, there wasn't a, you know, how did this just sweep over everyone?
everybody, I know, man. It's just, and if I stop and think how big this is, I'm glad that I just have my little lane going from county to county, because you can almost get discouraged with the participation of everybody. Everybody just sort of fell over. I think one of the most bravest thing one of my family members told me. I remember we walked into a grocery store not too far from where I live, and I just walked in without a mask. I never put on that blue mask. I never wanted to feel like what that mask felt like on my lips. I've had problems throughout my years. If I don't have my glasses adjusted properly, I can have problems behind my ear. And I didn't want that string around of the face mask to affect my ear. But anyway, back to what the brave thing a family member told me. We walked in the grocery store. She put on her mask, and she says, Ronnie, I just don't have, how she put it, don't have the courage like you do not to wear a mask. And I thought that was a very, Jeremiah and Judy, a very honest profession. When I say that I never wore a mask, I'm not bragging on myself, and I'm not putting down people who did. I'm just saying I just didn't want to play. I just did not want to play that game. I didn't want to muzzle myself. I didn't want to stay at work and have them tell me that what Becerra said, he was just talking about the COVID. When I knew, listening to some of the doctors, McCullough or Tenpenny or Northrop or Madej, all these doctors I've been listening to telling us that these vaccines are killing people. And I know it to be true, especially my loved one, my my sister-in-law's mom took Myrna vaccine and back in March of 2021 in great health, and then she dies in July after taking a vaccine. Again, I got to be intellectually honest. We didn't conduct an autopsy. We don't know. But considering the woman was in great health for 76-year-old woman, I think she was 76, mid 70s, she takes the vaccine. Her health quickly declines, in and out of the hospital, and she's died, and she's dead. Knowing that, it just would have been criminal, cowardly for me to still work at the California Department of Public Health, making a great salary, padding my pension. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror, Jeremiah and Julie. I could not look at myself in the mirror if I had taken the cowardly way out.
Yeah, I say
Yeah,
that all the
it's too
time too in
bad that
Butte
you're such
County
an
here. This,
anomaly.
yeah, these supervisors, how do you guys sleep at night? I don't know how you sleep at night. I'll tell you my story of my sheriff. So Sheriff Corey Honey here in Butte County, brave man. I mean, when I first moved here to Chico in 2014, we had a number of problems. Our dam, the Oroville Dam, started to break. Literally was going to flood Oroville, the city, and completely flood this community. Corey Honey
Sounds like a
had to on
metaphor.
yeah, oh yeah, that's true. Had to on his own without any authority. He didn't call the state, he didn't call the feds. On his own authority as sheriff, he literally called for that town to be evacuated on one Tuesday night. He literally he said he saw enough information. He picked up the to ask for a city of 50,000 people to all of a sudden at night
Oh,
get in your car. What? Ron's
Hippie
remembering.
just died.
Oh no.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Get off the
Mm,
computer, Ron.
oh God.
What of our warriors? What of our vaccine injured warriors?
wow.
Oh,
Wow. We got this news live right here. Wow.
she wanted to come with us to Border Pharmacy. She wanted to come with us. Oh, Jesus.
She's a
Everyone say a
piece.
prayer for Hippy Dippy,
Yeah.
who's a beloved figure in our community and
Suffered.
very
Suffered a
supportive.
lot.
Wow.
It's one of the things that, I'm dealing with this heart issue, this liver, I don't know what it is. Something again screwy, and I can barely walk down the street. I mean, I literally can't. And Ron knows this. Yesterday, I'm like, I can't even walk across the street. And and Angela Castler, my friend up in Tehama, she's like, you need to try this. You need to call this person. You need to call Dr. Arnie Love. You need to get on this. We can't lose you. And I'm like, you know what? This is why I keep going, because at some point you're going to. It's
Yeah.
inevitable. Who knows?
Well, I
I
wanted to
could get in
ask
a
you
car
about
accident
that.
tomorrow.
I did want to, because we have a little bit of time here,
Yeah.
and now we're shaking up with some really sad news, losing a friend and getting this
Mm.
word while we're here having this conversation. It's really shocking. But I did want to set some time aside for you, Julie, to just basically, to remind us that you're vaccine injured as well, and you show a lot of outward strength, and you don't let these injuries that you've experienced, you don't let them discourage you from being such a great activist. But it's almost misleading because you've suffered quite a bit, and I do want to take the opportunity for you to just remind people that you've experienced such an unbelievable amount of suffering yourself from these shots. And for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have the courage to fight back, but you have just something within you that you're speaking out and you're fighting back. But I'm sure it's not easy what you go through. So please tell us about the fact that you're vaccine injured as well, and I
Before
do
Yeah,
want to
before
take a
she
moment.
does that,
yeah.
Julie, I want to interject how much I respect and love Julie as my sister in this fight. If someone had to did to my mom what they did to her mom, I don't think I could be as composed as Julie has been. And she has, number one, what I like about her is she honestly admitted yesterday, I was bamboozled. She said that many times. That transparency, that realness resonates with people, and she's turned her anger and channel it constructively. And she gets up every morning, every Tuesday, and goes up. Before that, she's spending money, her own money, making copies. I mean, she's put herself out there physically, financially, driving by herself, and then she's not feeling well. I just had to make mention of that before she answered your question. So I purposely interrupted. Go ahead,
Well,
Julie.
I appreciate that. You know, it is at the heart of it all. I'm a daughter of the American Revolution, literally card carrying. So 10, 10 generations ago, I had a patriot that fought in the American Revolution, literally. And my mom was the one that, went through the painstaking research, which took years to find and to make sure that we were, legitimately qualified to be in this, Daughters of the American Revolution community. But yeah, no, it's my mom all the way. My mom was a fighter, man. If there was an injustice, if there was somebody, a little person getting harmed in the community, she was calling the Sunnyvale Police Department, literally. I mean, she was a person that, was not gonna stand by and let that happen. So I get that from her. So definitely I draw on the strength from my mother, who I can hear in my head constantly. I mean, she wouldn't let us rest when we went on vacation. She's like, you don't sleep on vacation. We do that. So she was a go, 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 go person. So if there's ever a time like yesterday when I was running late and I didn't want to get out of bed and I didn't want to drive up that mountain road and my eyes were killing me because yeah, I've had 5 emergency eye surgeries. This poison has destroyed so much of my, my eyes. And I can feel the buckle on one of them. I can hear her. You can still do it. I mean, you're still breathing. Get in my car, which I inherited, which is a Cadillac I call Jane. Get in my car, take me up to Downeyville, say your 3 minutes, and then come home. And if you need to take a nap, take a nap. Literally, that's what she would say. So
Mm-hmm.
there's that. I also have a daughter. So I have a daughter who's a medical assistant down in Alameda County working for Sutter Health. That girl got lied to by her establishment to take 3 shots of Moderna, and that pisses me off. Now, so far, she hasn't shown any signs, but she also is newly engaged and probably wants to have kids. And I'm praying to God every day for her ovaries to be safe. So I've
Mm.
got my daughter constantly in my mind going, yeah, mom, keep going, keep going. I've got to fight for her. She can't fight for herself. So yeah, so then there's me, and I'm like, it's just it's fascinating, but at the heart of the matter, I was poisoned. I was poisoned by members of my own community. And I don't take lightly to being poisoned and then having people who did the poisoning not take responsibility, not take accountability, not even give a rat's ass, to be honest with you, completely dismiss me. When I write, again, my first injury, this lesion on the brain out of the blue after that second Moderna shot, and can't be explained, and chronic tinnitus, screeching in the ear, and then my employer Enla wants me to take a booster in order to keep working in this wonderful job that I love, this career I created here in Chico, my second half of life surrounding me, and you're going to take that away from me? You've ripped away my life, my career, my purpose for getting up every day as a widow to go to a hospital and care for people? You're going to make me take a booster shot after these first 2 that I know am proving to you poisoned me by all this research I had done over Christmas of 2021. I'm going to walk in there and you're going to tell me to take another shot of poison. And if I don't, you're going to rip away all of my purpose in life. Oh, hell no. Thank you. No, sorry. I'm not going to just lie back and take that. So, yeah, I don't know how people don't. I don't know how people can just stand by, allow them to be injected with the poison, and allow their careers to be ripped away from them, their parents to be murdered, their kids to be murdered, their businesses to be shut down, their kids to be masked up, their kids to be taken out of school, all of the things that we experienced, and not do a damn thing. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I mean, I've made the point that if they had mandated that every American citizen had taken a tiny little tablet of vitamin C and no single person was harmed by this whatsoever, everyone just had a little bit more vitamin C, that would have been a disgusting and egregious violation of our rights.
Hmm.
But it's much, much, much worse than that. we were mandated to take something that was not as innocuous as vitamin C, something that was, poisoning and deadly to so many people, and to just act like nothing happened. It is like a reality bending sort of experience, a sort of feeling. For example, I point fundamentally to, and we talked about this before we started recording, um, VAERS, which you've become quite an expert in, Julie. The VAERS system, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, and everyone please go to a resource invented by guest of this program, Albert Benavides, VAERSaware.com. That's another resource that we all need to be aware of and take a look at it. Spread the word about VAERSaware.com. And basically that system, the VAERS system, indicates 40,000 people are on record as dying from the COVID shots alone. That
That's
doesn't
a
take
lot of
into
people.
account, that's a lot of human
Yeah,
souls.
man,
And
jeez.
it's so creepy. I mean, I'm trying to think of what's the word that means really, really, really creepy, to just dismiss offhand this enormous statistic of 40,000 people dead from a medical product that was supposed to be safe, which also makes me question the necessary harm that's being done, because I really just personally don't understand how something could kill 40,000 people and be perfectly harmless in the bodies of others, even if you haven't experienced acute symptoms just yet. It just seems to me that a not harmful product doesn't kill 40,000 people. I mean, maybe that's a crazy thing to say. I'm not a doctor, but 40,000 people seems like a lot of people. And we get this repeated knee jerk criticism of theirs from people. When you bring up that number, we have these pro-vaxxers, these shills, if you will, who they still show up at the Stop the Shot space or elsewhere. All they think to do is to criticize theirs, the reporting system, which, like I was saying before, that's like criticizing the sprinkler system in a fire, or like Ron was saying, you know, fixating on a statistic when we're talking
Rather
about
than
human people that are dead.
dead.
So
Yeah,
tell us
yeah.
a little bit, Julie, about your VAERS research, and what we should be able to gather from all that it indicates. Even if it's an imperfect system, it's showing that there's harm being done, correct?
Yeah, I mean, once you really start to really research what is VAERS, right? Well, it's the HHS, it's the government's database that they were required by law to put in place after the 1996 injury compensation law that Reagan signed, that said we're going to give immunity to all these pharmaceutical products to push out childhood vaccines because they're inherently unsafe. Quote unquote, to Ronald Reagan's face in his office, the pharmaceutical company said, well, they're inherently unsafe. We need immunity if we want to keep developing these products in 1996. So they said, or 86, sorry, 86. So
Yeah,
they said,
86.
86. So Ronald said, President Reagan said, fine, I'll give you immunity, but you got to put in place some sort of system to track the problems. That's theirs. So now, so before we get to COVID, there's this period of time where any doctors, et cetera, are required by law. There's a problem with the vaccine, you've got to report it to the system. It's your criminal database. It's the only way the government, who's responsible at the CDC for approving these childhood vaccine guidelines, to know what's going on. You've got to have a system. So they develop one and then they don't use it, right? Or it's inherently problematic from it's just a government database. They're all hard to manage, right? They're inherently got flaws, but it's still important information. So once I knew that I was injured, what am I going to do? Well, somebody goes, what about VAERS? I didn't even know about VAERS. Okay, another criminal problem at the county. They didn't tell us about VAERS, and I was working at the clinics. But anyway, so I knew, go file your report. So I file a report, and now I know the process. I'm inside the VAERS system for myself, inputting my injuries, my lot numbers, my story, what happened, my doctor's information, and then my mom dies. Boom, I knew immediately. Get that report in there, because if they want to know 4 shots to Moderna kills people, you're obligated, Julie, to go tell. So I do. Put in there the coroner's information, the state pathologist information. Boom, there's a report in there. I literally am waiting once my mom's report goes in there, sudden cardiac event, no other explanation. Here's the coroner's information to call and his phone number. And I literally videotaped it. Here's the state pathologist. Call him. She died of a sudden, no explanation. Here's her 4 vaccine numbers. I literally at least expected somebody at HHS to at least email me back going, we got to report, somebody's died. Here's what we're doing about it. Nothing. I literally got nothing. No response, no email confirmation, nothing. And I thought, I literally wrote Rochelle Walensky. I wrote an email. Lady, hey, what are you doing? At that point, there was like 29,000 dead. What are you doing? How are you organizing? You're not literally, checking on the deaths. Forget the administrative errors, forget the office visits, forget the eye injuries. The dead people should be number one priority for you to look at as those reports are coming in. And then it just, for me, balloons into, I'm now looking into both VersAware.com and working with Albert, who's a Chico State grad, by the way, and also MedAlerts, which is a search engine into VAERS, and I'm finding all the dead SIDS babies, Jeremiah. I'm like, oh my God, this is a criminal cabal. There's 2.7 million reports in VAERS total. That's all vaccines, but since the beginning of time, there are dead babies buried in that system that nobody's speaking out about. And it irks me that, nobody's being held accountable. And we're still sitting here going, oh, the vaccines are safe and effective. And well, how do we know? It's the system. Okay. Yeah. You tell me 2.7 million reports in VAERS are all, and when you go in and put your report in, big blaring FBI signage, huge FBI sign going, if you're putting in a report and it's fraudulent, we're coming after you. The FBI is like, you can't do that. Oh man, you stop if you're okay. I challenge these pro-vaxxers. Have you put in a VAERS report? And if so, then you've created fraud. I'm going to report you to the FBI.
What I wanted to add on regarding the people that have died, and this what I shared with my management. I have the date here. On October 13th, 2022, I informed my deputy director that there were then 31,330 deaths. I noted that in 2003, the smallpox vaccine program for healthcare workers was halted just after 2 deaths. 2 deaths. They stopped the program. And in October of 2022, 31,330. And now we're saying it's up to 40,000. And as you noted, as we all know, that's very conservative estimates.
Yeah, I always say add 2 zeros to any of these figures for underreporting, which has been proven.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I wrote an article that I would love for you to read if you haven't already called Radio Silence, and it goes over a handful of reasons why vaccine injuries are necessarily underreported for just simple, logical reasons, obvious reasons, such as, well, sorry to say, but you can't file a report when you're dead. Reason number one. Simple things like that, but also outrageously, the people administering these products are not even told about VAERS. So you have people who they're giving people a dangerous product and they don't even know there's a whole system to report these injuries. I mean, you literally have doctors and nurses who, if you say, well, are you entering reports into VAERS? They'll say, what's that? So, we have a system in place, and the medical professionals who are administering these products have not even been instructed so as to use this system when necessary. And why? Because it was a commercial rush to push these products, not just commercial. I mean, it was across society, but it was just like I say commercial because it's like you're promoting a product. You're not detracting from the product. You wouldn't say anything to discourage people from taking something that you're promoting, but the simple act of mentioning there's a vaccine adverse event reporting system is a discouraging statement in and of itself. You're taking away the sheen from this product that you're pushing, telling people to take without thinking about it. But unfortunately,
Jeremiah, there's a term you used about that. I mean, again, I did everything that my doctors told me about these vaccines for my kids, for my dogs, for me, the whole thing. And now I'm completely people are vaccine addicted. They're vaccine obsessed. There's something with this vaccine cabal that is like unbelievable. It's undeniable. What you cannot say, oh my gosh, you can't say one, you can't question the measles vaccine, you can't question the pneumonia, the RSV, the shingles, the Tdap, the what, oh my God, we got a million vaccines, Hep B, Hep A. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's
Yeah,
a term you
yeah.
use. What's the term you use about where you are with the vaccines?
Oh, right. Yeah, I was so overjoyed because I love when my language gets updated. And I'd gone from being vaccine hesitant to embracing eventually the term anti-vax and saying, yes, I'm an anti-vaxxer at this point. And now I'm past that. Now I'm a vaccine abolitionist. And I would like more people to, and I thank Dr. Leonard Horowitz, who's a friend of mine and a guest of this program. But I thank him for that term because that's the next step. Now we're getting bolder than bold. We're not silver
Mhm.
medalists anymore. We're gold medalists with our term to identify ourselves. We are vaccine abolitionists because too many people have been harmed by these products. The way that this cabal has operated really speaks for itself. What really moves me, I mean, a lot of things move me, starting with the violation of my own rights, the violation of my family's rights, the vaccine injuries that I've seen firsthand, the vaccine injured friends that I have at this point. But, the fact of these parents who took their children in for routine shots, thinking, oh, this is just a standard thing that you do. And then the child has a fever that night. And then the child wakes up in a different state than they've ever seen. And the
Mhm.
child is losing communication abilities. The child is not hitting developmental milestones. It makes me just so sad, even to describe this right now as a parent. We are so focused as parents on our children being healthy, our children learning how to read, learning how to do math, hopefully learning other skills, learning how to play sports or do things that they enjoy. We care for them in every little interval. And to see just a total setback, a collapse of your child's health when your children are supposed to be getting stronger,
Mhm.
more intelligent, more able right before your eyes, to see that natural development interrupted, and then
I
for the medical establishment that harmed your children
Yeah,
to turn around and basically shrug their shoulders when you say, this
exactly.
happened to my child. What are we doing in America? We have thousands of parents who can tell you one after the other after
Hmm.
the other. Our children are harmed by these shots. We can tell you firsthand. Who would know better than the parents? And I really question the morality. I question the intelligence of people who choose to side with these corrupt agencies above parents. If a parent tells you their child was harmed, why would you assume that they're not being truthful? And then why would you continue to assume that over the span of case after case after case of people who can make similar testimonies about what's happening to their children? I mean, this is such an outrageous crime that's happening in broad daylight. So that's why I said, you know what? I am a vaccine abolitionist at this point. And I also would like to point out, and people could research this for themselves, and I'm continuing to do my research. I'm not resting on my laurels at all, but there is really very little proof, as far as I've seen, proving that vaccines have helped anybody. I find it to be basically just a grand claim.
Hmm.
I could put on a cape and say that I'm Superman. It's just a claim, I can't jump out the window and fly. I'll jump out the window and die. So, you could put a cape on, you could put on an S on your chest, you could claim something. It really doesn't make it true. And the claims of these vaccine makers, it's based on a hypothetical situation that you get this to prevent this event of you being sick by a pathogen at some point later down the road. That seems like a dubious proposition to put me in harm's way to prevent a potential harm in the future. I should at least be able to opt out of that. I think it's probably something that should be outlawed and a practice that shouldn't be done because it's harming people. But to say that I don't have a choice to opt out of that, I'm not a free person at that point. Clearly, I'm a subject. I'm a medical subject. I'm a subject of medical tyranny, as
Jeremiah.
dramatic as that sounds. Yes.
Yeah, I had a lunch with a gentleman a couple of days ago. His son is 20 something right now, vaccine injured. I don't remember what particular vaccine, but one of the childhood vaccines on his schedule. He
Mm.
has never heard his son talk.
Wow.
He's never heard his son say, "I love you, Dad."
Right.
That that's painful as a parent. And as you noted, for all these kids to be vaccine injured and the parents having to deal with that for year after year after year after year. Their adult children are still in diapers,
Mm-hmm.
where in worst cases, the children or the adult children, they take their clothes off because the clothes irritate them.
Mm.
Um, it's just at a height of disrespect when people come in our stop the shot space and just press laughing emoticon after laughing emoticon after laughing emoticon, where people in that space, Shelly, Lori, T-Bird, Dominic, those are the four that's popped in my mind, and other folks who have lost loved ones. For people to laugh, I just don't get it. I just don't
Yeah,
get it, man.
me neither. I mean, yeah, this has been really something that has really challenged my sense of reality, I have to say, because I've written about it, I've talked about it, but especially where I'm coming from as an activist, I knew activists who we would protest any damn thing. If we heard someone experienced a injustice in some remote village in a country no one had ever heard of before, oh, let's go to the UN tomorrow. So
Mm-hmm.
what is happening here that we stood up for political prisoners, we stood up for victims of police brutality, we were anti-war, we were pro-environment, we were, animal rights, any type of rights, any type of injustice, we were opposed to it. And now some of those same people, if I bring up the fact of vaccine injury, like my article title goes, radio silence.
And
They want to
conversely,
change the discussion. Their face goes blank.
yeah,
Up, it's that vaccine talk again.
and conversely, you and I would have been on opposite sides of the fence back in the day, but this movement had brought a lot of people on opposite sides of the fence together. So your liberal compatriots back in the day, you thought that they would side with you now. And it's ironic that, I mean, I'm this conservative right winger and I'm teaming up with you, you know, who the system says is a left winger. But, you know how they try to divide and conquer us and categorize us. So yeah, the bad thing is that the people that we once partnered with on various sides of the issue or on the same side, they may have fallen by the wayside, but we picked up a lot of other people, like-minded folks, which I think is a beautiful thing, you know?
Right. Well, I'm sorry, but you set me up again with another grapefruit there, Ronald, which is please go check out my article, Contradictions Between Left and Right as Underscored by COVID.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny to me is a lot of the so-called right wingers are now being and from my point of view, are fulfilling the ideals of the left better than the left ever did. They're fighting for the children. To me, a
Exactly.
right winger is supposed to say, "Oh, well, sorry about your child, but I have to go do American business and make profit, and to each their own." It's the
Uh-huh.
right wingers, quote unquote, with the bleeding hearts now.
Uh,
So I
mm,
just, but all that stuff to me is all falling by the wayside, and we do
yeah,
have
it
to wrap up
has.
here. We're a little bit over time, but since it's a pre-recorded show, it will fade away, and people who listen to the archive can hear the complete discussion with an extra whatever 5 or 10 minutes added to the program. But that's something I do want to sort of bring up here, and I'm going to bring it up now in the Stop the Shots group, because we're questioning how do we grow our group. And I know it might sound abstract, it might sound campy or whatever you want to call it, but I really think we need to all dig a little bit deeper into our own humanity and really realize that we really are unified as human beings. We have to transcend these lines of division, because I see people, we unite, but then we only unite up to a point, because we
Mm-hmm.
say, oh, well, I identify as this, and you're on the other side of that line, or you're part of the other opposing group or whatever it is. And I think all of that is very illusory. I think if we allow ourselves to, we can create a greater unity than we realize if we understand, hey, look, there's just different types of human beings on the planet. There's people who are raised with different cultural backgrounds or whatever the case may be, but we know right from wrong. We have there's basic things that we agree about. We don't want our children harmed. We don't want to see people injured and those people not get the proper care and the proper recognition and so on and so forth. There's so many basic things that are really powerful things to unite around. I don't think there's any need to focus on the points of division at this point in time.
Yeah, I think my call to action, Jeremiah, is this. If you believe that there's a problem with either the COVID vaccine and or all vaccines, I don't want to hear one more negative word come out of your mouth about anybody that also shares that opinion. I don't want to hear one negative thing come out of your mouth if you don't believe that Peter McCullough should be sitting on a stage at a hearing. I don't want to hear one single bad thing about, who's getting on Dr. Drew or who's getting on Joe Rogan and why is it Dr. Mary. I don't want to hear one negative thing out of your mouth. If you have a person, whether they're small, big, large, who is on our side, who knows these shots need to be pulled, who knows that this whole thing needs to be questioned, I don't want to hear one bad thing out of your mouth. It all needs to be positive. It needs to be reinforcement. It needs to be, what are you going to do next? And what are you going to do tomorrow? And quit with the whole the negative bashing has got to stop.
Yeah, I agree. And I've noticed this as a tendency of people in general. It's just kind of one of our lousy human characteristics that pops up a lot. Is I notice with people when they get offended, when they get angered by something, then they spring into action. I say, well, where was all of that enthusiasm for what we were doing in the first place when we were trying to win the basketball game? Now you're so excited that you could criticize another teammate on your basketball team or whatever. But how about rechanneling that energy into what we were doing in the first place, which is trying to have our demands met, trying to achieve our goals? So I second that as well. People should really try to reorient themselves to phrase things in a positive way because not to sound too mystical about it, but it's like a friend of mine said years ago and it stuck with me. The universe doesn't respond to your statements about what you don't want. You have to speak to the universe in an affirmative manner about what you wish to affirm. And yeah, I totally agree with you. We should really refrain from attacking people who are saying that the shots need to be stopped because even if they're wrong, those individuals are wrong about one thing or another. Their crimes, their mistakes are not even a grain of sand compared to these monstrous corporations that have colluded with the government to harm the public. It's not even small potatoes. It's a grain of sand of whatever you're accusing this person of. It's absolutely nothing compared to these crimes against humanity.
Mhm.
Agreed.
So we're over time. Like I said, this portion of the discussion will not be on the live broadcast, but I wanted to ask you guys if you could quickly to, as I've done week after week, to invite people to our Stop the Shots group. Can you just quickly extend an invitation to those who maybe haven't dipped their toe in the pool yet?
Yes, it's going to take some guts to patch in the Stop the Shot space because there are a lot of people in that space that have been harmed by this poison. And listening to their stories can really tug at your heartstrings. But it's something that we need as a society to face. We all need to face what happened to us between 2020 and 2023, 2024. We can't sweep it under the rug. We can't forget about it because if we do, then we are allowing it to happen again. So yeah, I've met some great people in that space. Nancy Henderson. I didn't know when I first met her that she lived so close to us. Met her for the first time yesterday. We had lunch together, and then I went to her house, met her husband, And so it's good to meet people and hear their stories, but connect with them outside the Stop the Shots. But the Stop the Shots is like a magnet of like-minded people, people who have been poisoned, people who or loved ones have been poisoned or died, people who have loved ones who have died from some of these horrific hospital protocols, or activists like Jeremiah, like me, for example. I haven't been affected directly from the vaccine, but I'm doing what I know what God created me to do. So it's good to connect virtually with like-minded people. So yes.
And I think for me, the two things, if you're listening to this and you're not on Twitter X, you got to get on Twitter X. We have to get people from Facebook, people from other walks of life, the older, the younger, what, get on Twitter X. Like it or not, it's where the battles are being happening. It's where information is being spread, and the more people on our side that can get on Twitter X, get on Twitter X. That's number one. Number two, if you're on Twitter X right now and you're part of all these patriotic communities, all of these groups that I follow every day, these big, because again, I'm a political junkie, so I like to follow all these other communities, and I go into various spaces every day. Get over to Stop the Shot community. You can go to my page, which is Julie, the number 4, Butte, the number 5. That's my Twitter handle. And at the top, you'll see the Stop the Shot community link. All you got to do is click on that and join, period. Join it. Now you're part of it. We don't ask you to come every single night at 6 o'clock Pacific time and sit there for 3 or 4 hours and opine about what's going on with HHS or Kennedy. It doesn't matter. We need to have a community of people and show strength in numbers. All you got to do is just join it. And then, yeah, occasionally come in and then go promote it. So again, if you're part of the, patriotic movement, screw the government movement, whatever it is, and you're not part of the Stop the Shot community, you're not doing everything possible to support the cause. So I just add that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that so much because you were more direct about it than I've been. I keep saying, oh, well, to each their own. So I'm glad for that direct call. Yeah, please, folks, join us on X. One thing is you can curate your own page in a very educational way. You don't need to really consume really any garbage on there. You can go and follow Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, Dr. Kat Lindley, any number of medical freedom doctors, people who have appeared on this program, and you can get incredible information on your timeline, and you can participate in our spaces if you would like. I would encourage you to. I would love to hear from new voices, but like Julie said, you don't have to, but just at least join the group, because as I call it, it's a living petition. As the group grows, that means more and more people are saying, look, we've had enough with this mass poisoning of the public. We're not afraid to talk about it anymore. We're unifying around this, and we would really like for you to join us in that effort, because a lot of things are happening right now, and you should be a part of that changing tide. Don't sit there twiddling your thumbs. Don't sit there, sitting on your hands. Do something. And one thing that we can always do is we can amplify the voices of the people already speaking out. So I have to close this down. I actually need to go run and pick up my kids from school. But it was great talking with you, Ronald and Julie. Everyone who's still listening, which is hopefully all of you have listened from beginning to end, but for those tuned in to the very end here of the discussion, save the date, June 21st. We're doing another 528 Healing Jam at the Rock Mill Fitness location, 274 Lenox Avenue. And that is going to be on a Saturday this time. So yeah, it's Saturday, June 21st, 6 p.m. So Saturday instead of Sunday, and a little bit later than usual. But please save that date, Rock Mill Fitness, on Saturday, June 21st. Please check out my latest Substack article. Please join the Stop the Shots community on X. And please find Julie, that's Julie 4, the number 4, Butte County, Butte, and Julie for Butte. And please follow her. Please follow Ronald F. Owens Jr. Go to his website, muzzletruth.com. Please help spread the word about these medical freedom warriors. And I have to say, a great way to rattle the cage, if you will, is just simply share their testimony. For the people you've argued with already, don't argue with them anymore. You don't even need to add a preface. Just send the clip. Why are people making these testimonies around a so-called safe product? Are people going county by county by county, warning people about the dangers of a safe product? No, they're going county by county, warning people about the dangers of a dangerous product that has harmed a lot of people. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Please join our Stop the Shots community. Thanks, Ronald. Thanks, Julie. See you guys tonight. Have a great day out there on the West Coast.
You as well.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.
When you walk with open arms towards the sun, you feel the warmth of the rays, and then you know you're alive, and you don't have to be afraid of anything, 'cause you know the truth, and the truth is love, yes it is. Wasn't what they said to you, or anything that you learn from a book or from the news. It's not like that, 'cause it's a thing. It is something that you do. Doop 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 a doo. Doop 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 a doo. Doop 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 a doo. Dib on baby did long. Doop 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 a doo. Doop 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 a doo. Doop 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 a doo. Dib on baby did love's the highest truth. Nothing could be higher than love, my friend. Love's the deepest truth. Nothing could be deeper than love, my friend. When you stop and you take the time just to think about your life, you'll recall the ones you love and the ones who were always there for you. Better thank those friends better. You better make amends. Go and tell them now, yeah, yeah. Tell them what they mean to you. Doop 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 a doo. Doop 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 a doo. Doop 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 a doo. Dear bone baby did love. Doop 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 a doo. Doop 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 a doo. Doop 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 a doo. Dear bone baby did love.